Hi everyone. So this is my life story as I remember it between the ages of 10 and 18. At the age of 10, I started to change. My body started to change and I got my womanly parts, if you know what I mean. Shocker. I was bullied relentlessly for this. This was my last year in regular school. Mind you, I had gone to teachers about what was happening at home. I had gone to counselors about what was happening at home. I was still being bullied at school. It never got better. At this point, my mom chopped my hair off again. I had very short hair. And it was just something that continued to be a problem. I was never really conscious in the body, so a lot of the memories I have are as memories that would have happened to somebody else. I know by the time I was 12, all of my friends were not approved by my adoptive parents. And because third grade was my last grade in actual school, I was moved to homeschooling. The first year of homeschooling was fine, but the second year I refused to learn. I refused to do any homework, any schoolwork, anything, because the way I was being taught was basically I was being bullied into learning and I didn't want to do it. So I refused for a whole semester until the supervising teacher sat down with my adoptive parent and told her, we're not going to do this anymore. We are going to do this differently. And so she told me I needed to do a year's worth of work in one semester, which was totally fine. And she would give me a list of everything I had to accomplish within that month. I always accomplished everything I needed to accomplish within the first week. And the reason I did that was because I knew that if I got in any trouble, my ability to do school would be taken away. My books, returned. my textbooks, taken away. I would be grounded to my room, but I wouldn't be able to bring my homework with me, and therefore I wouldn't be able to do my schoolwork at all. So I always was really good for the week coming up to the, supervising teacher's visit. I always turned everything in, and my adoptive parent was getting more and more angry about it because I was always turning in my work. And at this point, she decided to have her biological daughter teach me. That didn't work because for the last year, while my adoptive sister was away at college, I had been being told, well, your sister never did this, your sister never did that, you're just so bad. None of your sisters would dream of doing this, but especially not my biological daughter, right? And this was just drilled into my head. And by the time I was 12, I had developed a very unhealthy jealousy and anger towards this person that honestly wasn't even there. They weren't doing anything to cause this. It was being caused by her own biological mother. And to this day, she does not understand why I was jealous of her or angry at her or the type of emotional, mental abuse and manipulation was happening to basically separate me from her. Looking back now, I know that is because her own daughter would stand up to her and tell her that what she was doing to me was wrong. So yeah. By the time I was in 8th grade, so by the time I was 13, all of my friends were in high school. I was put into classes for the things that I couldn't teach myself 2 days a week, and my adoptive parent was not happy with the friends that I made. All of the friends that I made were male. I've always gotten along better with males, but also older. This makes sense because during this time, Crystal was the host. And if you remember, Crystal is older. Crystal was 18 while the body was 13. So in that respect, she understood this and I understood this, but I wasn't really there most of the time. All of my friends were older. I was in honors and high school classes as an 8th grader. And I made really good friendships that are lasting to this day. Every single one, my adoptive parent tried to sabotage to the point where she actually called my, to this day, really good friend's father and threatened him with a lawsuit if he did not keep his 17-year-old son away from me. This happened when I was 15. We are still very close to this day, and we still talked in the middle of the night because I literally had no one. I was isolated. My adoptive parents had pitted us against each other, and so I had nobody. By the time I was 14, I started martial arts, Civil Air Patrol, and I was planning for a future. I was doing really good in school, and I was proving all of the bad kid stereotypes wrong. At the end of my 14th year, I was actually I don't know how to say this on this app, but a man went to prison for what he did to me. Let's put it that way. And then there was a whole court case, and that court case lasted from the time I was 15, because this happened literally 3 days before my 15th birthday, all the way until I was 16. So, no, I was 17 when the case was finally closed. I was a victim of a crime that is considered nonviolent in California, but in almost every other state is considered a violent crime. It is a felony. I was a victim of it. This stopped all of my plans in their tracks. My adoptive parent was highly abusive in many aspects. I touched on some of the aspects that were inappropriate abuses for any parent and child. This court case felt to me a lot like somebody had taken away my adoptive parent's possession by doing what he did to me. He took away her victim. Because of that, and because of court, my adoptive parent decided that I was just too difficult, and the fallout of me being the victim of a crime committed against me was that it's just too difficult for her own fragile ego to handle, that I might have an emotional traumatic response. And so instead of dealing with it and pulling me closer to the family, she put me in respite foster again, the same home that she had put me in before. I was there for 10 months. I remember minuscule moments. I do remember friendships, and I actually met my first and only real girlfriend there. And to this day, I have lasting friendships from there that I love and adore these people. But I lost everything except for working at this horse ranch where I met my family that I chose that has taken me in once I was an adult, and they were able to do that without stepping on toes. And even though I did step on toes, I was an adult, so who cared, because I chose that. But as a 15-year-old, having been physically really injured, and being told that this was my fault, and that if I had just loved my family enough, this would have never happened, when it happened in a place that they put me. And it happened because I was so desperate to escape that a 32-year-old man saw a 14-year-old girl and said, "I will save you," and then did atrocious things to that 14-year-old girl, including, but not limited to, holding a knife to my neck and locking me in his car with no way out. This is when my good friend Adam came to be, and Adam is a alter that is no longer in our system. Adam became the fiercest protector, the brother I wished would show up. But you have to remember, we're in the same body. And so a lot of Adam's memories I still don't have, because that was not his wish. When he integrated, he didn't want me to remember the things that he had done. And he made me promise that everybody that was cut off and blocked would remain cut off and blocked, even if he was no longer there to enforce that. When he integrated, it became such a moment, such a hard moment. I loved that altar, and I miss that altar. It is a fairly recent integration, but I miss our conversations. I miss his constant encouragement, and that has been the hardest thing for me as a system, because Adam came to be to protect me from somebody who should never have been allowed to hurt me. And so he came to be when I was 14. From the age of 15 until 10 months later, I was with this respite foster home, and the foster worker was trying to get my adoptive parents to release full custody to her so she could take legal guardianship and eventually adopt me. The reason for this was she recognized the signs of abuse and recognized that I had gone through abuse leading up to this huge traumatic event, and that the worst thing that could have happened was me to be abandoned, and that's exactly what happened. And so while many people did have really negative relationships, interactions, and experiences in her care, I did not. I did witness some things that I wish I hadn't, but I had a really loving and strong connection that is still there with this particular foster parent and her new husband. She had a new husband who's amazing, the most wonderful person, and his adopted daughter is just the most beautiful person in the world. His biological daughter is amazing as well. And I just need to shout out them that there are problems in every relationship and every parent-child situation. And when it comes to foster care, there can be even more. But I need to say that in my experience, she damn near saved my life. When I was almost 16, I was told that my adoptive sister was getting married, and if I didn't get my head out of my ass and come home, that I was not going to be able to go to her wedding. I was still fighting for the acceptance of this family that was supposed to be forever, and so I fabricated a whole fake life for the next 4 months, and I was able to come home, and everything about it was fake except for my grades, and everything about my experience, my existence was fake. Just it was so fake, and it was on purpose to be able to go to this wedding. We went to this wedding, and I held it together until we got back. 2 weeks after we got back, I just let it all go. I was like, all of this is fake. None of this is real. And basically, my adoptive parent manipulated me into thinking that I had done what was done to me to a 14-year-old. And remember, I was almost 17 at the time. And I was like, what? I was almost 16. I was like, what? But I had not done this to this person. And I actually went to the police station and asked them, like, did I do this? And they're like, have you ever, like, you know, done the deed? Have you ever passionately hugged? And I was like, no. What? No. And they were like, then there's nothing here. And I was like, arrest me, get me away from this woman. I don't care. Like, it can be false. I don't care, but I need to get away from this woman. And he said, it's not the way to do that. And so after that, I actually went and stayed with the foster parent again, and I explained to her what was happening and why I had felt I had to fake everything. And she explained to me what she had been working on, how everything had just been side-railed and derailed by this entire thing. That was all orchestrated by my adoptive mom and for my adoptive mom, so that I could have some semblance of acceptance and love that was never going to be there. And at this point, I was 16, and I said, I don't care anymore. I don't care about her love. I don't care about her affection. Get me away from her. So I stayed there for 2 weeks and came back. I was still in the same school. My adoptive parent was showing up at my school and humiliating me in front of classes and classmates, in front of teachers. I had teachers literally apologize to the parents of other students because of the actions of my adoptive parent. Like, that's mortifying. She pulled me out of a school play that I had to do to get a good grade in my theater class, and she pulled me out literally 3 days before the show. Mortifying, but actually my teacher did step in. He played my role, and at the end he said, we have a student that is being severely abused in our class. She's repeatedly been mortified by her parent in front of us, And I just want to take a moment to appreciate the fact she was ready and prepared to go, and that this is not her fault. And therefore, I want to thank all of you for being here and holding space for that student. At the end of the day, I was never allowed to go back to that school, and I got transferred back to the other homeschool program I'd been in as a child, which, mind you, this doesn't make any sense because I was in a foster care program. Like I was in a homeschool program, then put into foster care, moved to a different program. So I missed a semester of my freshman year. I was set to graduate early and I got transferred, and all of that stayed. During this time, I was so mad at all of this happening. I actually had a job at the time too. I was working full time and doing ROP, and I was set to be a veterinary technician. Like, that was my goal. I was ready to go. I was like, vet tech, veterinarian, that's what I'm gonna do. I was so set. I was so focused. I was, I was there. I was ready. I was working on it. I was going to the classes. I was doing early college classes to get there. Like, I was on the right path. I was so busy that there was no way to say like that I wasn't a good kid, except for the fact that I asked to meet with my therapist away from my adoptive parent to tell her the extent of the abuse that was going on. My adoptive parent found out, showed up, and basically told me to move out that day. I was just barely 17. So I went to walk into the house and she blocked the door. And I was like, excuse me, I have a job. Like, at minimum, I need to go get my debit card. I can buy everything else. Like, I have a job. I have school. I need to get my school stuff. I need to get all these things, right? And I kept trying to walk through the door, and she would not stop physically blocking me and shoving me, to the point where this house had 4 doors, and I took off running for one of the other doors, and I would just barely get there before she would catch up. And then I just decided I'm gonna skip 2 doors because that way I'm gonna have enough time to get in. And I get to that final door and I'm just about in, and she grabs my hoodie and slams me to the ground, and Adam took over. And this is the one memory that I have clear as day of Adam kicked her knees out from under her. She fell. She was obviously the aggressor in this situation, and my therapist witnessed all of it and then said, yeah, well, she's just a little bit defiant. And I was like, how am I being defiant? By doing exactly what she said. She said, get your stuff and get out. I have a job. I have a room lined up. Like, I can leave and be fine, but I can't do this abuse anymore. I can't do it. And mind you, at this time, I am 17, saying I cannot be abused like this anymore. Just, I have everything lined up to go. Just let me go. The cops said no, and ended up taking me on a 5150. Once I got to the hospital, the psychiatrist was like, we are not releasing this 17-year-old back into that situation. No. And so I was not able to leave for 12 days. And in that time, my adoptive parent came up with a brilliant plan to send me to the Institute for Attachment and Child Development. And by the way, if any of y'all see this, just because you're under new management doesn't mean your practices have changed, and does not mean that what you did to me was right. Nor does it mean that I am ever going to stop talking about the abuse in that program. The foster family that you put me with was the best thing that ever happened.